During the investigation of the Titanic shipwreck, researchers noticed a strange and unusual thing. At the bottom of the sea, the front part of the ship was in good condition, while the back part was in very bad condition, and that 2,000 feet away. Indeed, after lying at the bottom of the sea for hundreds of years, iron and steel rots. But if these two were part of the same ship, and sunk at the same time, then why so much difference between the front and the back? Researchers believe that on the night of the accident, something else happened to the Titanic besides hitting the iceberg, which caused more damage to its aft section. But the question remains, what was it? In 1912, the night when the Titanic crashed. At that time, it was 700 kilometers away from Newfoundland, Canada, alone in the middle of the dark sea. At the time of the incident, there were a total of 2,240 people on board, out of which 1,500 people lost their lives. The one who was called unsinkable quickly succumbed to the dark depths of the sea before the power of nature. The only eyewitnesses of this accident were those who somehow jumped from the ship into the cold water of the Atlantic Ocean. Anything that happened from the collision with the iceberg to the sinking of the ship, its record was not with anyone except those eyewitnesses, who were themselves struggling against the cold water. The first rescue ship, the RMS Carpathia, also arrived an hour and a half after the Titanic sank. It was also fortunate that they received the Titanic's emergency message. Otherwise, those who were fighting for their lives in the cold water would not have survived. And no one would have known about the Titanic disaster either. During the investigation, initially, no one knew what had happened with the ship. But then survivors revealed that the ship had collided with an iceberg. These statements were confirmed upon seeing the iceberg present at the scene, on which Titanic's red paint was still visible. After the accident, looking at eyewitness and evidence, it was stated in the investigation report that the iceberg had left a 300-foot hole on the right side of the Titanic, meaning that 1/3 of Titanic's entire side was torn open. But on the other hand, an eyewitness stated that it took nearly 2.5 hours for the ship to sink. Investigators believe that if the iceberg had indeed created a 300-foot gash on the Titanic, then it should have sunk not in 2.5 hours, but rather in a matter of minutes. But what the truth was, no one could know at that time. To know the truth, it was necessary to find the Titanic ship. The search for the Titanic continued for many years. And with each passing year, this mystery becomes more serious. Finally, after 73 years, when the Titanic wreck was found, it was a huge breakthrough for the marine industry. The time had come to find answers to all the questions that Titanic had left behind. At a depth of 4,000 meters in the Atlantic Ocean, the wreckage of the Titanic lay in pitch-black darkness for decades. Several expeditions were arranged which captured countless photos of the shipwreck. Oceanic explorer P.H. Nargile has visited the Titanic wreck more than 30 times. But he never saw the 300-foot hole even once. However, this profile photo of the Titanic shows a 30-foot area that indicates something had hit here. Its area is only 11 square feet, and calculations suggest that it could accumulate around 370 gallons of water inside the Titanic every second. At this rate of filling, it means that the entire ship would have been filled with water in about 2.5 hours. And according to eyewitnesses, it also took about 2.5 hours for the Titanic to sink. So, one mystery was solved, that there wasn't a 300-foot hole in the Titanic. Rather, there was only a 30-foot long crack. But this was not the only mystery. There was still a lot to know. During the investigation of the Titanic shipwreck, researchers were not able to understand this. How is the front part of the ship, called the bow, was in a better condition than the back part, that is, the stern? And why is there so much distance between the two? The high-tech sonar scanning technology was used to solve this mystery. ROVs captured hundreds of pictures of the Titanic's shipwreck site, and then converted them into a 3D model with the help of computer graphics. This model also had all the details that no normal camera or human eye can see at this depth. In the model, it can be seen that all the decks of the 392-foot-long stern are nested within each other, as if it is not a steel ship, but a paper ship. Different parts separated from the ship are scattered around. Only 2 engines, the size of a house, are attached to it. In this model, there is another important clue hidden as well. The clue that tells about this condition of the stern. 110 years ago, when the stern hit the ocean floor, so its traces are still there till today, which can only be seen through 3D model. These marks show when the stern hit the ocean floor, so it was rotating in an anti-clockwise direction. Scientists can infer from these marks that the stern was going underwater with a speed of 80 km/h at that time. When the rear part of the ship was going deep into the water at such a speed, so the forces generated by the water caused the ship's loose parts to break apart. And when it hit the ocean floor 4 kilometers below, all its decks sank into each other. On the other hand, as you can see, the design of the bow section is hydrodynamic, meaning it can easily cut through the water, just like a ship creates its path by parting the water as it floats on it. This is why the bow section was not rotating as compared to the stern, neither the water forces were directly attacking it. Finally, another mystery of an incident that happened 110 years ago has also been unraveled. But there is another question that needs to be answered. The question is, when did the Titanic ship separate into 2 parts? As you know, the news of the ship breaking into 2 parts was given by an eyewitness. For years, it has been believed that the Titanic had already divided into 2 parts before it sank. This news is quite true, but it is not the whole truth. When the bow section flooded, it went underwater, due to which the entire weight of the stern section was falling on the pivot point, that is, the center. This center point could not bear excessive weight and broke and divided into 2 parts. But the 3D model, created by sonar scanning, tells a different story. Yes, if seen, the equipment inside the Titanic is scattered far and wide on the ocean floor. It includes coffee cups, dinner plates, chandeliers, deck benches, and even people's personal belongings. About 90% of these items belong to the stern section. A total of more than 10,000 items are spread across this area, which is an area of about 3.2 square kilometers. If this section was separated from the bow section above the water, so this means that by reaching the ocean floor, its debris would not have spread over 3.2 square kilometers, but an even larger area, as you can see in this picture as well. Therefore, experts believe that this section broke above water, but it is separated from the bow section by approaching the ocean floor. And then, while rotating, it changed its direction and fell about 2,000 feet away. Today, the body of the RMS Titanic has completely rusted. Scientists believe that, at the depths of the ocean, oxygen is very scarce, which is why the process of rusting also happens very slowly. But when some samples of rust were extracted and tested, so it was found that the rust is due to the oxygen released by bacteria. Experts believe that the speed with which it is rusting, in the next few years, all the floors of the Titanic will collapse on each other, and then it will lose its original shape forever. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you again in another video.